Hello, Nigeria. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. On the news Friday morning, the Nigerian Army has announced a reshuffling of its leadership by appointing new General Commanders, Corp Commanders, Commandants of training institutions, Brigade Commanders, and commanding officers, amongst others. This is contained in a statement by the Defense Headquarters and signed by the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu. It said the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, approved the posting and appointment of some senior officers in order to tackle the spate of security breaches rocking the country. This reshuffle is coming after members of the House of Representatives gave the President a 6-week ultimatum to address insecurity challenges in the country or risk impeachment. Following this move, the President on Thursday summoned the security chiefs for a meeting in Abuja. With the rising security tension and fear across the country, we hope this reshuffle brings a calm and solution to Nigeria's current position. On today's show, we are going to be discussing how we can effectively hold our political leaders accountable through a recall or an impeachment. I mean, that's what's trending now, right? Threats of impeachment. Just yesterday, Mr. Jumebi Kachukwu, ADC presidential candidate, asked the entire leadership of the National Assembly to also resign or be impeached. According to him, the president has failed because the legislature has also failed in their duties. Joining me on the conversation today is Barrister Stephen Oji, a human rights activist and a youth inclusion advocate. You're welcome to the show, Barrister.
Hi. Thank you.
Yeah. This is the second time you're being with us on this show. It's good to have you back again.
I'm pleased to be here.
You're very passionate about enlightening Nigerians about the recall processes in Nigeria, right? So before we dive into that, I would like to hear your thoughts on Mr. Jumebi Kachukwu's comments.
Well, it's a democracy and he's entitled to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think I get his point. His point is the fact that they have failed to hold the executive accountable. I think that's the point he's trying to say,
Okay.
to pass across, and to that extent, they have failed in their duty, and therefore they should resign. It's good he's saying that.
Okay. Well, I actually believe that the reason Nigeria is the way it is right now is because the citizens, the electorates, are not holding their political leaders accountable. You know, possibly because they don't know they have the power to do so, or because they don't have adequate knowledge on how to actually hold them accountable. So that's why we have you here today to throw more light on that, right? So can you take us through the recall process of a legislator?
Yes, to recall a legislature in Nigeria is guided by the Constitution, basically Section 69 for the Federal Legislature, that's the National Assembly, and Sections 110 for the State's House of Assembly. It says that if you want to recall a legislature, if the constituents have lost confidence in the legislature's ability to represent their interests, then they can recall that legislature. How are they going to do that? First, there has to be a petition presented to INEC. And this petition, this is my problem with this provision, this petition has to be signed by 1/2 of registered voters in the legislator's constituency. That's like half, 50% of people, of registered voters in the legislator's constituency have to sign this petition. INEC will now verify this petition before they now present a referendum. By verification, they want to know, oh, is this petition real? Do the people want it? Okay, we verify these signatures on this petition if they actually belong to the registered voters in that constituency. And when you scale that first hurdle, then you now move to the second phase of it, which is the referendum. Okay, constituency, you people presented this petition to us. Do you want this guy out or in? Yes or no? Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then they do that, and if it scales through, is he yes now? Yeah, we don't want him anymore. He goes out and then they elect somebody else. That is the procedure to recall that. But and it scales through if 51%
Okay.
Votes, we don't want you, we've truly lost confidence in you. But what is the problem I see in this? It's talking about 51% of registered voters. Registered voters, not the voters who voted at the election, that is accredited voters.
Okay.
Do you understand? Now, the problem is this. If you look at our election data, we have barely had 50% voter turnout at any general election. I don't know if you understand. The highest we have got to should be around 49%, 49 point something percent in the presidential election. I don't know if you understand. So why are you asking people who didn't participate in the election to come and hold someone who they didn't vote in accountable? We don't know why these people didn't come to vote in the first place. It could be for any reason. I don't care. I don't live in that locality. It could be for whatever reason. And now you're expecting that they should still come back and hold someone who they didn't elect accountable. It is problematic. You know, it makes it kind of impossible. It gives it with one hand and it takes it away from the other hand. It makes more sense if we say, oh, 50% of the people who participated in that election, if this petition is signed by 50% of people, accredited voters in that election, then it makes sense because, oh, these people actually participated in that election. So that is the bottleneck we have there.
Okay. So, okay, having pointed out what the issue is, what do you think can actually be done to address that?
Yeah, it's constitutional and electoral amendments. Amendments to the Constitution and the Electoral Act, basically, to delete that particular requirement that it has to be signed by 50% of registered voters in that constituency. We should work with data. It should represent the ethos of the people. If 50% haven't come to vote, why should 50% come to hold accountable? Let it be 50% of the people that voted. That is number one. And then number two hurdle is the signature part. INEC will verify the signatures on the petition. How is INEC supposed to verify signatures? Do you understand? At one of the CSO roundtables we had, I raised that questions, and the head of ICT was there present. And I was like, excuse me, sir, we've been focusing on how to vote in. When these people don't do right, how do we verify these signatures? What technology is available to INEC to verify over 10 million signatures within the time frame given? What technologies are available to do that accurately? No. At this point in time, recognized by our law, we don't have any of that technology. So what stops us from using the PVC to actualize that dream?
Yeah.
Why is it that when we want to vote them in, you go use your PVC and the thumbprint? And then when you want to control them to ensure that they represent your interest as a people, you're now saying we'll verify signature. That is it.
So what response did you get to that?
Oh, he noted it. I didn't get any answer.
Okay, he just noted it. Okay, so that means they've not even considered this issue that you are actually pointing out.
Well, as at then, he just noted it down, and I don't know about now, but I would love to follow up on that and see, because there is no technology. We've been technologically advancing in other areas of our election.
Yeah.
But on this part, and mind you, this is a full circle. It's not, oh, this is just half of it. Voting in is half of it. How do you ensure that these legislatures remain loyal to the people who voted them in? How do you ensure that they represent the interest of the people? What options are available to the people when these guys don't represent their interest? That is it. And that is it is the root of our democracy, citizen participation. If citizens can't participate effectively in the democratic process, then it's not really a democracy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand. So that is the root of citizens' participation in Nigerian democracy, and we need to fix that to get all our problems, most of our democratic development problems solved.
Okay, so do you think there are any more things you need to point out as regarding youth inclusion in politics and all of that, active participation of the youth in politics?
Yeah, so if you look at it this way now, yeah, the Constitution will tell you that in Chapter 2, that the fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy, it will tell you that sovereignty belongs to the people from whom the Constitution derives its power. The people empowers the Constitution. The Constitution empowers the government. Still, that same section of the Constitution says that the security and welfare, will be is the primary purpose. Every other thing is secondary. The security and welfare of the citizens is the primary purpose of government. And then it now told you that, thirdly, participation of citizens in the government in the government of the day will be guaranteed by the Constitution. Now, if you look at the demographics in Nigeria, the youths and women constitute over 57%, I think 70 now, I'm not really sure, of the voting population, even the citizenry. So who is losing? It's the youths. Brain drain, the youths. I can count, over 50 people who have traveled to Canada in the past 1 year. They are all young persons leaving the country, going to some other place. Do you understand? Look at the composition of the National Assembly. Are there youths there? Does it represent our demographic composition as a nation? No. It only is comprised of former governors. Mm-hmm. And mind you, this is the powerhouse of our government. That is the people in government, the legislature. That is the people in government. It is you and me in government. So it should reflect our demographic composition, women, young persons, PWDs, so that all these views will be factored when we are holding the government accountable, when we are making policies, when we are making laws that will govern us as a people. If I was the one now and made chairman of a male committee to oversee women issues, believe me, we would not consider the views of women properly.
Yeah.
Reflect it, flip it to the National Assembly. If it's constituted only of ex-governors who are senior citizens, do you understand, and who are males, it will not reflect the interest of the citizens as it's composed. So it is necessary we have everybody on the table so we can move the government forward. It is democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We need to be involved.
Yeah, we need to be involved, but that's if we want to be involved, because I feel like a lot of women and youth are not really getting as involved as they should in politics, I think the youths are majority of, because they're actually youths that are getting involved, but majority of the youths are actually playing the social media politics, right? They're not actually coming out to be involved, to be actively involved. So we can expect that the ex-governors and they have to fill up those spaces, right? Or you don't agree with me?
Well, no, I really don't agree with you. There are different sides to it.
Okay.
You understand? For us to participate in government, it means access to information. It also means freedom to express our opinions, be it on social media, being on offline media, be it in person. It's a form of participation, access to information and expression. Another thing which I see as another problem there is that the Minister of Education, I read an article he said over 50%, did he say over 50% of Nigerian adults are illiterates? And I want to understand that what he meant by illiterates means that they don't know how to read and write. Yeah? And if they don't know how to read and write, this is national data. If they don't know how to read and write, it presupposes that they never went through the university or they never went through primary school, for instance. So if they didn't go through primary school, it means they didn't learn social studies. They didn't learn government, how government works. 50% of our population that are supposed to vote. I don't know if we look at this problem and think it's magic. If you look at that data from that perspective, it means that these 50% don't understand how this government works. Now, it behoves on us, the youth who are on social media, the ones who are on offline media, to educate these people on how government functions. Let's not take it for granted. Because if they are illiterate, it means they never learnt about this thing. And democracy was developed by thinking people. So it needs to be taught to people who are new to it. So if we are on social media, it's also a part of a form of participation. Educate people on how government works. Educate them on what accountability mechanisms are available to them. Educate them on how these accountability mechanisms can be activated. What are the requirements? What do you need to do? If you're not satisfied about representation in your constituency, what can you do? Do you understand? Because it is only the legislature is empowered by the Constitution to impeach the president or the governor and their vices, the deputy and the vice. It's only legislature that is empowered to do that. And these are the people who run our government. So I, as a person, I can't come and tell the president. I can say it, but I can't direct him to, oh, do this thing this way. I don't like it. Do you understand? But the legislatures can do that. And it is only the people that are empowered to tell the legislature, this is what we want. So you see, that is the root of the whole problem. And that is how people participate in their government as citizens. We need to get that right.
Coming to the impeachment process, this 6-week ultimatum that has been given to President Buhari, is it really feasible? What's the impeachment process like? I think Nigerians need to understand what they should be expecting to see after the 6 weeks.
Okay. The impeachment process for the president and the vice president is provided for in section 143. Section 143 of the Constitution, and it says that the president can be impeached if he is found guilty of gross misconduct. That section also defines gross misconduct to be a breach of the provisions of the Constitution or whatever act the National Assembly feels has constituted gross misconduct. These are the only two reasons why the president can be impeached.
Can it be broken down to like the layman's language?
So if the president breaks a provision of the Constitution says this and the president does otherwise, it is gross misconduct. That is one. Number two, if the president does something which is so grave that the National Assembly feel that, the president shouldn't do this, this is gross misconduct, then the Constitution says that that is gross misconduct. If the people, the National Assembly, say in their opinion, this is gross misconduct, so that is also gross misconduct.
Okay.
That is one. And then the process is, first of all, there has to be a notice of allegation that will be presented to the Senate President, which will be signed by one-third of members of the National Assembly, that's the Senate and the House of Reps. So when there's that notice of allegation, there are timelines also. It says that within 7 days of receiving that notice of allegation, the Senate President will serve that notice of allegation on all the members of the National Assembly, that's Senate and the Reps, and also serve it on the person who is accused of gross misconduct, being the President or the Vice President. And he has to do that within 7 days. And within 14 days of that service on the person, he can choose to put up a representation that's put his defense and say, oh, I did not do this, or this is why this happened, He can do that within 14 days of the presentation, the serving of that presentation allegation on him. And after that, I think within that 14 days still, the House, the National Assembly, the members now vote. Are we going to investigate this allegation or not? It's just a yes or no vote. They don't need to debate or give reasons why. So first of all, they have to vote. So when the allegation has been presented, it's served on all the members and the president, then the members will vote, should we investigate this allegation? It doesn't matter whether the president responds to the allegation or not, but they have to go ahead and vote. So when they vote, For that vote to pass through, there has to be two-third, he has to acquire two-third votes to scale through of the members in the National Assembly. So if that scales through, then the Senate President would now send a request to the Chief Justice of the Federation, the CJN, to constitute a panel of seven, how did the Constitution put it? It said people of unquestionable character, who do not have any political affiliation, who is you know, that kind of somebody, a reputable person of unquestionable character, who is not partisan. Do you understand? So he has to recruit 7 of those people. That's what will constitute that panel. And then that panel has 3 months to consider that allegation, to invite whatever parties it needs to invite, even the president, to come and defend or give reasons, come and defend the allegation. He can also hire a lawyer if he wants. The Constitution permits that. So they have 3 months to conclude on that and issue a report to the Senate President, that's the National Assembly, sorry, and indict the President that truly you're guilty of misconduct. Then the National Assembly, that's the Senate and the House of Reps, has to adopt that report. This report has to be adopted by 2/3 majority votes. No more 1/3. 2/3 majority now have to adopt it. And when they adopt that report, the president stands impeached. Now, do you see the voting pattern? 1/3 would approve the allegation. That's 1/3 will sign the allegation. Yeah. And after that, 2/3 will now approve, oh, let's investigate. 2/3 will now adopt if he is indicted, right? So why is it now different for citizens when they want to recall a legislature? That you're saying over 50% and 51% when they never even voted. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, so if they don't have up to 2/3 votes,
it can't happen. It cannot happen. And there's even another dynamics to this whole thing. If we are looking at the timelines from what the Constitution said.
Yeah, it's going to take, give or take 5 months.
Thereabout. Yeah, and how long do we have to the general elections?
To the general elections.
If you look at the 7 days here, 7 days here, 14 days here, 14 days here, 3 months. Do you understand? It's not like they can hasten it too, but that is if, that's where the politicking comes in now. If he was the majority leader threatening to impeach, they have the numbers in the House. But here is the minority leader. So there's still a lot of politics that will go into it, getting members to vote for it and all that. And they're in the minority. They may never achieve that required voting threshold. Do you understand? So there's still that politics in it.
And everything has to follow this course to achieve that result.
Anything less than that is null and void. It has to follow that process strictly. And the timelines too. So, I don't know, general elections comes up in less than...
It's safe to say that this call for impeachment came really, really late. It came really late because if the legislators have been doing their job, I don't think they will have to wait until, you know, things have gotten out of hand, because truly things have gotten out of hand in Nigeria, because videos have been coming up. We see bike men with arms just driving along the, like, things have gotten out of hand right now. So really. It's kind of late, and a
few months to the general election,
you know. So oh well.
It's a dire situation we found ourselves, but in all of it, right, you can see it as the evolution of our democracy. It's the evolution of our democracy, you know. When these processes are tested, the processes in the Constitution, when they are tested, we see the loopholes in them, we address them through constitutional and electoral reforms. And that is where the citizens come in. For instance, now, we're saying this call for impeachment is coming very late. And that is the truth. And I believe a lot of citizens would also share in this sentiment that is coming very late. We could have done something long ago, a long time ago, but the system to do that thing is so difficult, somewhat impossible. Do you understand? So it's as if the citizens are left handicapped. The citizens who the Constitution has declared sovereign, from whom the Constitution gets its power, it's as if they are handicapped. Because assuming the citizens had the power to say, oh, Mr. Legislature, we have been impoverished, we are dying, you better call the president to order, call the governor to order, or we are going to recall you next week. And he's on his feet. Mr. President, what are we going to do? My house members, CEO, and the story is the same across all zones. Insecurity is everywhere. Yeah. The welfare of people is impoverished all across over. Dollar is 710 naira now. So I believe there's no security and people are not faring well. And these two things are the primary purpose of government. Do you understand? So it's enough for people to complain. And
recall those that are meant to hold the executive accountable.
Exactly, if they are not doing that.
But somehow the Constitution has made it impossible for us to do that.
Not the Constitution, the people who amended it and slotted that phrase,
okay, so
that clause.
So was there a time that clause was not there?
For the verification of signatures, it wasn't there. It was inserted after the 2010 electoral and constitutional amendments. It was inserted there that INEC will verify signatures, but the other part that was how it was.
Okay, so it's always
but the part of verifying signatures was put in there newly.
Okay. Guess what we really need to look into is voter education. A lot of organizations have been emphasizing that come this 2023 elections, because we really need to get a lot of things right, in Nigeria. Right, and like you pointed out, the recall process is something that really needs to be looked into. Yeah.
And a scenario just came to my head now. Let me give you this scenario. Yeah. The National Assembly, the minority, of course, they have threatened to impeach the president in 6 weeks if he doesn't tackle the insecurity problem. Now, let me give you this scenario. 6 weeks later, the president did not do it. And the National Assembly actually went ahead to call for impeachment of the president. And during voting, a senator from a constituency where insecurity has ravaged his people, who cannot go to his constituency to hold constituency meeting, votes against the impeachment of the president. Does that represent the interest of his people? Or what can the people do? Do you understand? Now you're now looking at gathering over 50% of registered voters in his place to come and address that issue.
It's really problematic.
It's the problem in our democracy.
It's really it's like they've rendered the people handicapped.
Exactly.
They've rendered the people handicapped. You can't call back anyone who is not performing. You just sit there and be helpless.
And
basically.
I can tell you, chances are they will vote along party lines. Do you understand? Yeah. It's a game of numbers. So this is how you ensure also that the allegiance of the legislature is to the people and not their parties. Because they represent the people and not their political
So what can
parties.
Nigerians do to make sure that this problematic clause in the Constitution is reviewed and addressed? Because it's one thing to actually point out what the issue is, and it's another thing to actually provide practical ideas on how this thing can be, how it can be reviewed and addressed.
Right now, we have to make use of opportunity. Right. And the closest opportunity now is the next general election. Which candidates are we voting for? What is their pedigree? What's their track record? I think that's the closest opportunity we have at addressing this problem right now. Do you understand? We need to actively mobilize for next election cycle so that we vote in candidates who are people-centered, citizen-centered
candidates, not candidates who by their track records have demonstrated that they are only interested in enriching themselves and their cronies in their political parties. We don't need to vote in those people. And the people need to understand the implications of voting those people. And then the evil which has befallen our electorates now, which is vote buying also, we need to educate them against that. Because these guys have a lot of money to throw around. You understand? We need to educate them about that. We need to prepare aggressively for the 2023 elections and make sure that the interest of the people is represented at the ballots. That is number one. And then when that is done, we need to start a new round of electoral and constitutional reforms, having these key provisions in mind. The recall process, we need to amend that section so that we can use our PVC and then let's say 15 or 25% of accredited voters. That is if 25% of people are complaining, do you know what it means? Let's not look at 25% as 25%. 25% can materialize into 20 million Nigerians are complaining that we don't like your government. Something is wrong. It's worth looking at. We don't need to push it all the way to 50 or 51%. And that is it. And at Proactive Gender Initiatives, this is one of our program areas, citizenship education. Yeah, so that's one of the things we do.
So I hope you guys have a lot of jingles coming up to educate Nigerians, because that's the thing is we actually don't do a lot of reading out here. So if you really want to educate people and get their attention, it has to be visuals, right? So I hope that your organization is actually working on producing jingles. I think INEC too also needs to produce a lot of jingles to educate people ahead of the upcoming general elections. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us on today's show. It was really nice having you. Thanks for the clarity, for the enlightenment and all of that. Thank you for joining us on today's show. As they say, people perish for lack of knowledge. Do well to self-educate and get involved in politics. You cannot grumble on the sideline and expect to see changes. The tomorrow we have been waiting for is now. Are Nigerian youths ready to rise up to the responsibility of leadership? I hope we are. So join the conversation in the comment section and see you next time on Let's Talk About It.